Amber Cox has lost it, and Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham are at the center of the storm. The Indiana Fever GM is facing a full-blown mutiny after her two biggest stars reportedly rejected her off-season plans. First, Clark turned down Cunningham's invitation to join the Project B rival league. Then, Cunningham publicly admitted she was frustrated with her one-year contract. And now, fans and analysts are questioning Cox's entire roster strategy. Let's break this down. Cunningham revealed on her podcast that she asked Clark to join her in the new Project B League, a startup that would allow players to compete overseas and expand their brands globally. Clark's response? A flat-out no. She's committed solely to the WNBA and isn't interested in off-season leagues. Meanwhile, Cunningham signed a one-year, $665,000 deal to stay with the Fever, and she wasn't happy about it. "I'm not even gonna lie, it's a little bit frustrating," she said on her podcast. She later clarified that it wasn't about the money, it was about wanting more years. She wanted to buy a house. She wanted to bring her dog and donkey to Indy. She wanted to stay with the teammates she loves. And then there's the roster construction. Cox has loaded the Fever with guards, 10 guards to be exact. Meanwhile, the front court is paper thin. Fans are asking, how can the Fever compete when they're so unbalanced? Amber Cox is trying to justify it all. She's talking about financial flexibility. She's talking about the long-term plan. She's talking about the epic provision that will give Clark a max extension next summer. But Clark and Cunningham aren't backing down. The WNBA is erupting. And Cox is in the hot seat. Buckle up, this one is massive. Sophie Cunningham has been one of Caitlin Clark's biggest supporters since day one. She called Clark a gem and said she'd love to play with her one day. When she got traded to the Fever, she called it a dream come true. So when Cunningham launched Project B, a new rival league designed to give players a chance to play year-round and expand their global brands, she had one person at the top of her invite list, Caitlin Clark. But Clark said no. I tried to get her to play in Project B. She was like no, Cunningham revealed on her podcast. And the reason? Clark is laser-focused on the WNBA. Cunningham herself explained it perfectly, all these leagues are great, but at the end of the day, if you don't have the WNBA, you don't have the platform. You don't have the eyes, you don't have the recognition. Clark isn't interested in distractions. She's committed to winning a championship in Indiana. And that means rejecting even the most tempting opportunities. But here's the kicker, Cunningham's Project B is a brilliant idea. It would allow players to stay sharp, earn extra money, and build their brands globally. Several WNBA All-Stars have already signed up. And Clark could have been the face of it all. Instead, she said no. And that rejection sent shockwaves through the Fever organization, and through Amber Cox's office. Now let's talk about the deal that has everyone talking. Sophie Cunningham signed a one-year, $665,000 contract to stay with the Indiana Fever. On paper, that's a huge raise from the $100,000 she made last season. But Cunningham wasn't happy. "I'm not even gonna lie, it's a little bit frustrating," she said on her podcast. "It's not about the money. It's about the length." Cunningham wanted a multi-year deal. She wanted to buy a house. She wanted to bring her dog and her donkey to Indianapolis. She wanted to put down roots. "I just wanted more years because I love it here," Cunningham later clarified on X. "I wanted to get a house so I could bring my dog and donkey to Indy with me. That's it. That's the truth. I think we have something very special here in Indiana." And she had a point. Cunningham is coming off an MCL injury that sidelined her at the end of last season. She's 30 years old. She wants stability. She wants a team that believes in her long-term. But Amber Cox had other plans. Cox is playing the long game. She's planning for Clark's max extension next season under the new EPIC provision. She's planning for Aaliyah Boston's supermax. She's planning for Kelsey Mitchell's contract. And Cunningham? She got a one-year deal because Cox needs financial flexibility. Cunningham said she received offers elsewhere that were for multiple years. But she chose to stay in Indiana. She chose to stay with Clark. She chose to stay with the team she loves. But make no mistake, she's frustrated. And that frustration is a problem for Cox. Here's where things get really messy. Amber Cox has loaded the Indiana Fever with guards. We're talking 10 guards on the roster, including Clark, Mitchell, Cunningham, Lexi Hull, Tyasha Harris, Raven Johnson, and more. And the front court? It's thin. Very thin. Aaliyah Boston and Monique Billings are the only real bigs. One injury to Boston, and the Fever could be in serious trouble. But Cox has a plan, she says. Last season, the Fever were devastated by injuries. Clark missed time. Cunningham missed time. 6 players had season-ending injuries. The front office had to scramble just to field a team. So this season, Cox is building depth. She's making sure there's a backup for every position. She's making sure no one has to play 40 minutes every night. She's making sure the team can survive another injury crisis. We don't want to play players 40 minutes every night, Cox said. This schedule is incredibly difficult. We have back-to-backs, and even when we don't, we're playing almost every other day. She's also dealing with the salary cap. Clark is eligible for a max extension next season. Boston just signed a supermax. Mitchell signed a supermax. Cox has to balance all of that while keeping the team competitive. So she made a calculated decision: sign guards on short-term deals, maintain financial flexibility, and plan for the long term. But fans and analysts are skeptical. Getting Cunningham on a one-year, $665,000 protected deal, I thought she'd fetch more than that in free agency myself, Fever insider Tony East said. Cox is playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. But if the Fever's front court gets exposed, it could all fall apart. Here's the elephant in the room: Caitlin Clark might have more power than Amber Cox. Cunningham herself admitted that Clark has unprecedented influence over the Fever organization. Those types of athletes, they get to come into an organization, they have the green light and they can do whatever they want, Cunningham said on her podcast. Clark had a hand in hiring Stephanie White as head coach. She has input on roster decisions. She's not just a player, she's a partner. And that's a problem for Cox. Because when Clark rejects Cox's plans, like Project B, or roster decisions, it looks like a power struggle. It looks like Cox is losing control of her own team. Cox has publicly committed to keeping Clark in Indiana for her entire career. We want those two around for their careers, the duration of their careers, Cox said about Clark and Boston. But that commitment comes with a price. Clark wants to win now. She wants to be treated with respect. She wants to have a say in the team's direction. And if Cox can't deliver? If the Fever's roster is too guard-heavy? If Cunningham walks after this season? Clark could decide to take her talents elsewhere. So where do we go from here? Scenario 1, the Fever win big. Cox's plan works. The Fever's guard depth carries them through the season. Cunningham plays well and signs a multi-year deal next summer. Clark wins MVP. The Fever win a championship. Everyone celebrates. Scenario 2, the roster implodes. The front court gets exposed. Boston gets injured. The Fever can't rebound. Cunningham walks in free agency. Clark demands changes. Cox's job is in jeopardy. Scenario 3, Clark's influence grows. Clark pushes for more control. Cox is forced to adapt. The team is built around Clark's vision. Cunningham stays because Clark wants her. The Fever becomes a dynasty. And that's the story of Amber Cox losing it, and Clark and Cunningham rejecting her plan. Clark said no to Project B. Cunningham is frustrated with her contract. Cox has built a guard-heavy roster that everyone is questioning. The Fever are in chaos. The WNBA is erupting. And the future of the franchise is on the line. Now we want to hear from you. Is Amber Cox making the right moves? Should Cunningham have gotten a multi-year deal? And does Caitlin Clark have too much power? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. And if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with a basketball fan who needs to know what's really going on. This is your channel name, signing off. Peace, love, and women's basketball forever. Basketball.